Good morning everybody, good morning, it's JPR and welcome back to another video. Your starter Pokemon is most likely going to be the backbone of your team that carries you through the main story. I mean, how many of us rolled up to Elite Four as kids with level 70 Blaziken and 5 sacrificial rodents in the back? It seems like a pretty common practice. But what about the competitive landscape? That's a whole different can of beans. So let's break down the best of the best starters from each generation, in both singles and doubles. Okay, so what's that really old internet joke that people used to tell about Gen 1? Something about how only Chuck Norris willingly chooses Bulbasaur to play through Kanto, even though that in itself isn't very accurate since Bulbasaur is an amazing main story Pokemon, especially in Gen 1. And well, I hate to say it, Chuck, but competitively speaking, you're not looking too impressive either. In the singles metagame, Venusaur has very rarely ever dropped below the UU tier. For those not well versed in competitive lingo, that's basically the second highest tier, not counting Ubers, where these super broken Pokemon all get banned to. Venusaur can do it all, from playing a utility role with Leech Seed, Sleep Powder, and more, to setting up with Growth and Chlorophyll in the sun to become a scary good sweeper. The latter strategy ended up being so good in Gen 5 competitive, I know, the Gen where weather was out of control, what a shocker, that this strategy eventually ended up getting banned. But despite the ban on that particular strategy, this goofy-looking cabbage frog is still surprisingly versatile. Mega Venusaur wasn't too shabby either, and while not quite as common as Mega Charizard Y, it did excel as one of the best walls in the top tier. So, you know what, even if he did get a little chubbier, it paid off. Charizard, on the other hand, is more often than not relegated to the bottom tiers of singles thanks to its double weakness to Stealth Rock, and while Blastoise is a decent wall, it lacks a lot of the good utility options that Venusaur has going for it, making it little more than a semi-decent rapid spitter in most scenarios. Even on the VGC side of things, Venusaur is much more consistently run than the other two, being present on high-placing teams for most of the last 10 years. As for Charizard and Blastoise, they were only really relevant during the Sword and Shield era thanks to their absurdly good G-Max moves, and, well, mostly that's just Charizard, sorry Blastoise. And while Charizard was arguably the top dog among the three in Gen 8, Venusaur just has a better long-term track record, easily crowning it as this gen's best competitive starter. Unfortunately, on the VGC side of things, data regarding the Johto starters couldn't possibly be any more scarce. I failed to find a single high-ranking VGC team in the last 4 gens that contained any of these Pokemon. So this section is going to be strictly based on singles performance. In singles, Meganium has pretty much been a no-show since Gen 4, so we can pretty much write it off immediately. Typhlosion and Feraligatr started their first few gens off seeing relatively the same usage, but as time went on, Feraligatr certainly pulled ahead. First of all, Feraligatr has had access to Dragon Dance since Gen 4, which if it comes down to that, or having to run Choice Scarf Typhlosion with Eruption, I mean, you don't have to do that, but it's certainly the most common set, yeah, I'm taking Dragon Dance. But that's certainly not the only factor, as Feraligatr was also blessed with a great hidden ability in Gen 5, Sheer Force. Much better than Typhlosion's Flash Fire, that's for sure. And the combination of Dragon Dance and Sheer Force allows Feraligatr to hit much harder than you'd expect from a Pokemon with 105 base attack, which is by no means shabby. And while Feraligatr isn't available yet in Gen 9, with Typhlosion and its Hisuian sibling already falling into the low tiers, it won't take much for Feraligatr to continue its reign at the top. Gen 3 is certainly one of the easiest to figure out if you know anything about competitive singles. Blaziken is one of the only starter Pokemon to ever be banned to Ubers, and although it's back now, the fact that it ever happened puts it in a league of its own. This chicken is so spicy it would make Colonel Sanders sweat. And honestly, it's a bit of a shame that Blaziken sticks out like this because Sceptile and Swampert are by no means bad competition. Swampert is consistently a higher tiered Pokemon thanks to its amazing type combination and stats, and Sceptile usually doesn't lag too far behind as a decent Glass Cannon sweeper. And while Swampert has seen slightly more usage in VGC over the years than Blaziken, I would say it's not enough to overturn how good Blaziken was at its peak in singles. This demonic chicken spent 3 entire generations in Ubers, and that's not including the Mega Evolution. So, not to gloss over Gen 3 or anything, it's just that it's really one-sided. Between Swords Dance, Speed Boost, and a fantastic move pool, Blaziken is easily one of the most dangerous sweepers in the game. Even among the other Ubers, very few Pokemon could reliably check it in its prime, mostly just Giratina and Lugia. Moving on to Gen 4, we have once again another classic battle between water and fire. Sorry, Torterra, you just have too many weaknesses for a bulky grass type. Yeah, I know, they just gave you Shell Smash, Headlong Rush, and Loaded Dice Bullet Seed, but that's not enough to overturn 16 years of bad juju. But that aside, this might be our closest competition in any generation. Infernape has solidified itself as one of the best offensive Pokemon in higher tiers thanks to its great move pool in tandem with Iron Fist, granting 20% more power to all of its punching moves, which, is a lot of them. And Empoleon will always have one of the best defensive typings in the game, along with more than enough support moves to keep it relevant. Empoleon and Infernape have been in the same usage tier for almost their entire existence. The only differences are that Infernape stayed in OU during Gen 5, while Empoleon dropped to UU, and currently in Gen 9, Empoleon is OU while Infernape has dropped to UU. So their stats across the board are virtually identical. In VGC, Infernape does have a slight edge, being present on a few relevant teams in the 2010 and 2016 formats, and it notably was on the winning team of the 2016 Liverpool Regionals, but that's all there is to say. As for Empoleon and Torterra, they are virtually non-existent in this format. So if you average between singles and doubles, then Infernape is this gen's best starter. But recency bias is far more kind to Empoleon, as it's coming hot off the heels of a big buff in the Teal Mask DLC where its hidden ability was changed from Defiant to Competitive, a much better fit for its overall kit. But honestly, these Pokemon are still so new to the Gen 9 meta, who knows how things will shake out in only a few months' time. For now, it's basically a tie. For Gen 5, once again, we're going to have to ignore VGC because, well, they all suck. So once again, things are a bit lopsided in singles, and that's because Superior might just be one of the greatest one-button Pokemon of all time. In true zero-to-hero fashion, Superior went from the bottom tier in Gen 5 to the very top in Gen 6 and hasn't looked down since. The reason is simple, its hidden ability Contrary, which turns Superior into a Leaf Storm spamming machine. It's also one of the few Pokemon nowadays with access to Glare, the most reliable status move in the game. But it is worth noting Superior does have a top tier contender this gen in Hisuian Samurott, who's been seeing a lot of usage recently due to its great typing and signature move Ceaseless Edge, which makes it a fantastic lead for setting hazards. But although Superior hasn't been released in Gen 9 yet, I have a tough time believing it wouldn't still be great. Contrary Leaf Storm will never go out of style, and plus now it has access to Fire Terra Blast, which is just an upgraded version of Hidden Power Fire it used to run. Don't be shocked if you see a lot of this sneaky snake in a few months. Well, hey there, are you enjoying the video? Great, then why not subscribe to the channel so you'll always see my new videos? It's free and you can impress your friends with all your newfound Pokemon knowledge, so why not? Gen 6 is another pretty easy generation to pin down, as this one belongs to Greninja with no real competition. In fact, Greninja is only the second starter behind Blaziken to ever be banned to the Ubers tier, as it sat there for the second half of Gen 6 and early Gen 7. Thanks to his Protean ability, allowing it to change types on the fly, and a move pool that allows Greninja to play virtually any role you desire, this Pokemon has more wild cards than a deck of Uno. And in Gen 7, Greninja would get yet another option added to its already amazing kit in the form of Battle Bond, which essentially just turns Greninja into a legendary after picking up a KO. And despite both of these extremely strong abilities getting nerfed in Gen 9, Greninja is still the best Kalos starter by a country mile over Chestnut and Delphox. And this includes VGC, where Greninja is by no means a popular pick, but has seen more usage over the years than the other two. As for Gen 7, although it's another fairly obvious pick, this is probably the most polarized any generation has been so far. The clear pick, at least on the VGC side, is Incineroar, who basically runs the game in any format it's legal in. With access to Fake Out, Parting Shot, Intimidate, and being a dark type immune to Prankster, Incineroar is a VGC player's Swiss Army knife. This guy can basically do everything but pay your taxes for you. And honestly, he might even be able to do that. In 2022, Incineroar was present on more than 500 high-ranking VGC teams. And it has cracked the hundreds in various other formats as well, making it one of the most consistent options in VGC history. It has won 3 World Championships and was even present on every single top 8 players team in 2019. But where things get interesting is singles, where Incineroar is, well, I won't say terrible, but definitely not good. It does consistently outperform Decidueye, but Primarina has always been ranked at least 1 to 2 tiers above it. So while Primarina does squeak out a W in that department, it's hard to overlook Incineroar's resume as one of the greatest VGC Pokemon of all time. And for that reason, this generation belongs to it. For Gen 8, on the singles side of things, it's a fierce competition between Cinderace and Rillaboom, and it pretty much has to do exclusively with how good their hidden abilities are. Don't ask Intellion about his, he doesn't like to talk about it. Cinderace basically got reskinned Protean in the form of Libero, and also has access to 2 of the best signature moves of all time. Pyro Ball in terms of sheer power, and Court Change in terms of utility. allowing it to switch entry hazards to the other side of the field, screens, and so much more. This actually made Cinderace only the third starter Pokemon to ever do some jail time maneuvers. And while Rillaboom didn't quite get that far, with the combination of Grassy Surge and Grassy Glide, it's certainly one of the scariest revenge killers in the top tier. Ultimately, this battle is decided in VGC though, where Rillaboom was an absolute menace in Gen 8 with those same tools. A grass-type starter that only needs one move to be broken. Where have I heard that before? Okay, I'm joking. It gets Fake Out too. While Cinderace is certainly a bit more impressive in singles, VGC is completely one-sided in Rillaboom's favor. So ultimately, Rillaboom takes home the cake for Gen 8. And finally, for Gen 9, we have a pretty tight race between all three of the starters for maybe the first time ever. When this generation first began, all three of them occupied the top tier. Meowscarada is another amazing Protean user, Skeledirge is one of the best walls in the game thanks to Unaware, and can become really hard to stop thanks to Torch Song and Slack Off, and Quaquaval only needs a single Aqua Step to raise its speed and turn into a sweeper. Honestly, I have to commend Game Freak for doing all three of these starters justice. But for the third straight generation, this battle is ultimately decided by VGC once again, where Meowscarada emerges victorious, as it's been present at 12 regional tournaments and even won the San Diego Regional earlier this year. What can I say, even if Protean is just Walmart brand terrestrialization now, it's still enough to make any Pokemon incredible. Well, except Kecleon, but we'll admit. Once again, being a dark type is inherently valuable in VGC since you're immune to Prankster. Flower Trick goes off with the same force as an Atomic Bomb in most cases, and having access to a fast U-turn is always a good tool to have. And maybe the most surprising part is that quite a few Meowscaradas in VGC actually run Overgrow instead of Protean, usually with a Focus Sash just to make those Flower Tricks hit even harder, all while keeping your team protected from Prankster, so this Pokemon certainly has more than one good option up its magical sleeves. So hey, Grass-type fans, who actually win this one with the best competitive starter in 4 of the 9 generations. Kinda surprising actually, but I'm here for it. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. I'll see you guys next time.